Happy April! So in March, just like February, I read 2 books. And also just like in February, those 2 books were both third books in series. Except last month, both of the books I read were finishing up trilogies, whereas both of these are the third books in series of 5. And both dragon books, so they also have that in common. So I actually started Black Powder War at the very end of February, took a little break, read one of my son's books, came back to it and finished it up in March. I don't know that I want to say too much about it here because I'd like to film a full review for it, but I will say that like the one before it, I found myself disappointed, and for pretty much the same reasons. I felt like too much time was spent on telling the story instead of showing it. I felt like the really poignant and emotional moments that I loved from the first one just weren't happening as often. And I felt like a lot of the things that were happening in this book were just like dots on the timeline to get through rather than things that really mattered. So by the end, a few of those things that happened on the journey of Lawrence and Temeraire, things that were happening on their physical journey from where they started to where they're ending up, later did become important, but it was hard to tell at the time. So this is like travelogue style. Lawrence and Temeraire are starting in China, and they have received orders, and they're on their way to complete that mission and then try to get back home. And it felt like it was just following them on their journey and describing the journey, and it wasn't always that interesting. It got to the point where I felt like I didn't care so much that I just started skimming some spots just to get to the end, which felt really sad to me because that's not what I wanted my reading experience to be in this one. So there's a whole section that I didn't fully read with a couple of extra characters that seemed like it had a couple of good scenes. But to take the time to read that whole section just for a couple of good scenes didn't seem like it was worth the time spent. So I'll get a little deeper into why I think this book felt so disappointing to me when I make the full video dedicated to just this one. So I said I read third books out of series of 5. The Temeraire series is longer than 5 books, but from my understanding, there's like a first arc of 5 books, after which you feel like you could be done or continue on. So out of those 5, this one is the middle. And then once I finished this one, and I finished, because I did skim parts of it, I finally started Defiant by Michael R. Miller. This is one I've been meaning to read for a while. It's been on my TBR for several months, but book 4 is coming and I wanted to have this one finished and then have a little break from the world, read some other stuff before book 4 comes out. I don't know that as of right now, there is a release date for the 4th book, but it's soon enough that it should be less than a year from now. I had hoped to finish this one before filming this video. My bookmark is 60 pages from the end, so I'll finish it in the next day or 2. This one is also the 3rd book out of 5, and it feels very much like a middle book in a series. The middle book in a longer series is different than the center book in a trilogy. The overarching plot through the whole series is just longer. There's so much more going on. It does feel like in the center one, we're getting to a turning point in the story. This is the series that starts with the young boy who rescues a dragon egg and he becomes a dragon rider. This world has basically zombie creatures that are the main world threat, but the characters, especially in this 3rd one, the main characters are dealing with the fact that government leaders and political leaders are so concerned with fighting amongst themselves that they're not giving due consideration to the actual threat to the world, which is the Scourge, the zombie creatures. Apparently a lot of people say scourge. Tomato, tomato. I'm probably always going to say scourge. And it's been interesting to me as I've been reading this because the writing style is so very much geared towards a young audience. It feels like a book sitting on the cusp between middle grade and young adult. And it's almost like disappointing to me that I'm enjoying this one more than Black Powder War when I loved the first book in that series so much. And I do like the writing style in Black Powder War. It's just the parts I like didn't happen as often. This one, though meant for younger audiences, is, I think, very well written for those younger audiences. Every scene that happens doesn't feel pointless. It feels like everything is leading to something else, which I think just helps keep the momentum of the story going. So far, out of the first 3 books in the series that I've read, I think I enjoyed the second one the most. And I think that's just a matter of the story got on its own feet after feeling like it was copying Aragon too much. It became its own thing. By the second book, you know all the characters, so the story can just be expanded upon and deepened. In this one, I think my enjoyment being a little less is mostly due to the fact that this feels like a transitionary book, like it's leading us to the turning point in the story where we're then going to get the last 2 books where things start to ramp up and resolve towards the end. The magic is still very much like game style, so characters are leveling up, gaining abilities. I do like that we're learning a little more about the history of the world and how the Order of Riders has historically worked with or not worked with the wild dragonflights. We're getting to know more of the elders from the different elements of dragons and getting a little glimpse into why maybe the elder dragons might not be as good of good guys as we may have thought from the first couple of books. So I've been enjoying this read. I'm almost done, and I'm going to finish just in time to start the read-along book. Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. If you have not gotten yourself a copy yet, I think this video is coming out on April 1st or April 2nd if I'm slow. It will not be too late to join. I plan on reading this fairly slowly. I don't want to get too far ahead of anyone. So you have time to order a copy, go to your bookstore, library, whatever, download an audiobook or ebook. So many options. I will be hosting the read-along on my Patreon, which there will be a link for in the description. It's for all levels, free and up, so I'm not making you pay to join my Patreon to do the read-along. It's just a nice place to host the read-along away from YouTube. My plan right now is to make weekly posts with spoiler threads for certain chapters, because nobody wants to be spoiled for further along than they are currently. I have purposefully not looked much into this book. I did not want to know too much about it. I have been reading so many series. I have spent my time in worlds that I've already been part of, characters I've already known for a while. I'm excited to start a new world, new characters, new magic, new everything. I've watched 0 reviews, and I'm really excited to start. And I encourage you to start with me. So this one is about 400 pages. That's not super long in the realm of epic fantasy books. And since I'm planning on reading it slower, I do plan on having a second book going at the same time. I have already started it. And speaking of continuing series that I've already been reading, the book I'm reading at the same time as this one is the next Wheel of Time book. It has been several months since I finished the 7th book, which is the halfway point. So upon starting The Path of Daggers, I am now entering the second half. This journey for me has been so long. It's been like 4 or 5 years since I started reading The Wheel of Time. At one point I did reread the first couple, like when you're reading a new series and you reread the first ones before the next one comes out, and then before the next one comes out you go back and reread those. That's too much to do for this series, far too long for that. And I probably won't reread any of them until I finish the series completely. I don't know that it will take me 4 or 5 more years. Having the audiobooks actually really helps because this is a good series to just put on and listen to while doing other things. So much time is spent on exposition, description of the physical place, the descriptions of everybody. It's not a fast-paced, riveting narrative. It takes its time. And so it's like almost atmospheric to just have playing in the background while cleaning or folding laundry or whatever. But then when I'm able to sit and read and enjoy some slow reading time, I also love having the physical books. I have heard about the slog, the slow section that I believe I am entering right now, and I don't know how real the slog is versus it just feeling slow because of the overall length of the story. And after passing the second half, you feel like you should be getting to the ramping up to the end part of the story, but it's not yet because there's still 7 more. If April is good to me and I manage to have time for more than 2 books, which is all I've been able to read the last few months, I don't even know what I'll read next, and I plan on leaving it open for mood reading. I can't decide if I will give in to or resist the temptation to continue on in the realm of the Elderlings. I really enjoyed the Tawny Man trilogy and I'd like to continue on there. And then I just have plenty of other books to read. So make sure to go down to the description of the video to join the read along. Thank you to my patrons. I appreciate you guys a ton, and happy reading. Bye.